Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of A Friend for the Long Haul. I'm here today with Megan Hamilton. And I found Megan on social media thanks to my wife, Kathleen. And Kathleen will be coming on later in the season as well, because we're going to be talking about her dissertation work with long COVID. But you're from Canada. And in addition to doing professional tarot readings for a long time now, you also work a lot with people on finding their voice, and you're a speaker and you help people with public speaking and just all things that I thought were really interesting, on top of the fact that you also host a podcast called Embracing Enchantment, which I am obsessed with. And we found out that we're also huge My Morning Jacket fans.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from Louisville. uh, and so there's a whole theme there. Plus, we're curly, we have raging ADHD, and I think we're awesome. So, Megan
Yeah.
Hamilton, thank you for joining me for this long COVID podcast, even though I don't think you have long COVID.
I don't think I do either.
Yeah. But there's so many things that you do in your work that overlap with so many of the themes that I've encountered over the
Mm.
almost 2 years of doing this podcast that I just, number one, selfishly really wanted to get to hang out with you. And number two, thought that we could have some interesting conversations around what you do and how it converges with this community. So thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Oh, I'm thrilled to. I am absolutely thrilled to, and thank you for having me. And it's interesting that you say that because, yeah, I mean, inadvertently, there is sort of like, as is the case, I think when you put anything you're doing out into the world, there tends to be overlap in terms of lived experience between the people who gravitate to you.
Yeah.
And I would say that long COVID and COVID care and COVID awareness has definitely been one of the, themes that tend to come up, whether I'm working with clients who have long COVID or whether it just comes up in terms of talking about accessibility,
Mm,
which is something I end up talking about a fair amount as well, because it's important to me in my work.
same.
And yeah, so it's so the and ADHD, which we
Yeah.
which we
Woo!
both,
Yeah.
and it's something.
It's something. And
Mhm.
one of the main themes that keeps coming up is this notion of a destabilized identity or losing identity, your sense of
Mhm.
self. And so many of us feel so disconnected from our bodies because the relational safety there is gone, because our bodies, to stay alive commonly with this illness, have gone too hard,
Mhm.
while at the same time we don't make energy like we should. So there's
Mhm.
this constant dance of maintenance that takes up all your energy, and you're already at a deficit. So when you're dismissed by your doctors, your family, your friends, relationships fall apart because that person who's supposed to love you is like, "Have you tried yoga?"
I promise I have never said that to anybody that I knew had long COVID.
Bless you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, you are already in the inner circle for that. But your self-confidence tanks, there's grief, I call it the stinky onion, just because there's layer after layer after layer. And if
Mhm.
you put it all together, this notion of your voice and yourself, you spend a long time trying to reclaim old, and over time, that grief gets bigger because you realize that you doesn't exist anymore.
Mhm.
And for me, in some ways, that's been good, not to put a toxic positivity thing on it, but I am far more aligned with the things that I care about now than I was then. And
Mhm.
it's forced me on this huge experience of examining my people pleasing and where it came from and all of that other trauma and grief, because I had to be able to just go through the day to day to keep myself propped up.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
your work around self and voice and embracing enchantment, just like your podcast is named, really appeals to me because when you don't feel safe in your body, your confidence is in the tank, you can't control all of the changes that have come to you that you didn't want. What themes are you seeing with people you work with? Because I know it's not just people with long COVID on this dumpster fire of a timeline. Everyone's reprioritizing and freaked out. And I'm
Mhm.
just curious about what themes you see from your clients around identity and self and trying to hold on to anything or learn to work with that new experience of self.
Yeah, it's interesting because as you were talking about the loss of identity and the grief and the mourning of that and the likely slow realization that perhaps there was part of you, and I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but maybe there's part of you who had kept holding on to hope that things would just go back to normal. And then the kind of realization, probably over time, that's not going to happen. I think that is to varying degrees of challenge is happening to so many people right now as we are. I mean, I think COVID in general
Yeah.
did that to everyone or for everyone. I mean, you can look at it in both ways. I don't mean the actually contracting the disease itself, but instead the idea of just waiting for everything to go back to
Yeah.
normal and then just realizing like there's no normal
No.
that we're going back to after this. And certainly for some people, that's especially true.
Yeah.
But we cannot go back to this time where we don't now realize how connected we are and how much we
Mm.
have to take care of each other. I mean, some people did not walk away from that with that
Yeah.
mindset, but whatever. They can now see what's the results of that, what's happening. What we're
Yeah.
watching unfold is this inability to find, I guess, compassion and see yourself as a citizen of the world instead of, just like living in your own bubble. I think
Yeah.
that's part of what's happening as everything is unraveling and collapsing. And not only are we not going back and we can't go back, there's what we thought we'd be going back to never existed anyway. And I think
No.
that's come up especially a lot in the last couple of weeks, this idea of yeah. Anyways, so in terms of themes, yeah, people are rudderless. People are the safety of even that you didn't even realize you had
Mm.
is gone on so many levels. And so for people who are, working on visibility work, which is
Yeah.
being out in the public, whether it's on a stage talking about, giving a talk on something, or it's in your marketing for whatever, neat project you're getting up to, or it's simply just standing up and saying something in a room full of people. We often have this, whether we're aware of it or not, like a set group of identity factors that help us connect to who we are. And as you say, and as you've noticed, when those are taken from you, you have to create a new sense of self.
Yeah.
And I would argue, and this is not anybody's favorite, but
Mm.
something that occurred to me is we crave safety, and I don't know that it exists, and certainly not in the way that we thought it did for anybody.
Yeah.
There's no real financial safety. There's no real guarantees.
Yeah.
We don't know. We can only know surface level, within the realm of the material world, what is around us.
Right.
We don't know what's happening in the ether. We don't know what's happening, two houses down that might affect us. We don't know what's happening at City Hall that might affect us. We don't know what's happening on the other side of the world that might affect us. And I think what I've come to realize now, bear in mind, I am not dealing with uh, the extreme challenges that many people deal with, both with long COVID and just in general around the world. But what I came to understand about safety is that it's kind of a state of mind. And the safety is I know that I will keep the promises I make to myself
Mm.
through something called self-efficacy to the best of my ability, and trusting that if I need to change course, there's a reason for that. And that is, if we're talking about safety, that's kind of the conclusion that I've come to that makes the most sense in this absolute chaos that we're living in right now,
Yeah.
which is still rudderless and anchorless, right? It's just that it gives the reins to you and your ability to trust yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really hard. The other day, I learned something revolutionary, but so common sense
Mhm.
that I had never even considered, which is one can set boundaries with oneself. And I didn't know that.
Mm.
And I think one of the things that I've noticed about our community as a whole, so one of the really insidious things about COVID is that it really can attack any part of your body and kind of linger there. And
Mhm.
one of the main things that we deal with is it actually attacks the vagus nerve. And that has a huge impact on our autonomic nervous system and that ability to feel safe because we
Mhm.
stay in fight or flight. And when you are experiencing, funding being taken away because that condition's not real, so we're not going to do any more research on it, and your mom thinks it's just menopause, and your partner left. And like I said before, the amount of energy that goes into just maintenance of, did I take my meds? What meds am I on? Why do I feel bad today? Why is this hour like this when the last one was like that? When your nervous system is also actually super shredded, being able sometimes to differentiate something that you have to do with urgency and something that you can spend a little more time on is really difficult because for the longest time, everything has felt urgent. Every decision I have to make about how I'm going to get through the day feels life or death. And it's
Mhm.
so exhausting. But I'm
Mhm.
really trying to breathe occasionally and just think. Either a big one for me is fear. I come at everything from fear, not just because of being disabled by this, but because of life. So I try to stop and ask myself, like, what am I actually scared of? What's the rational basis for me being terrified about this thing in this moment? And usually it's that I'm going to fuck up or somebody's going to think I fucked up, or I'm going to be perceived as less than because I have a TBI and I can't say things the way I used to. And I used to be smart. I'm still smart, but there's all these negative self beliefs. So being able, like you said, to make a promise to me and try to stick with it, but still giving myself space for the fact that I can't control minute to minute, hour to hour what this body's going to do. Maybe that's the thing that is important, is trying to find peace in knowing that there is no, like you said, no safety, no control. I just have to try to be as consistent with myself as I can and as kind to myself as I can.
Yeah.
But that's hard
Oh,
when
yeah.
you, in general, but
Yeah.
so many of us have histories with CPTSD or abuse or neurodivergence that was not identified or helped. I have these theories about why our nervous systems were so susceptible to this kind of damage from the virus,
Mm.
because everyone I know with long COVID is deep feeler. It's just me
Mm.
having theories, but
No, no, I mean, I've certainly noticed some themes as well, but as an observer and not a scientist,
yeah,
I'm not gonna
no,
that's not my
yeah,
that's definitely not my lane. One thing I wanted to mention was the concept of the safety being making promises to yourself and keeping them. When I learned about it, there's a name for it, and it's called self-efficacy. And it is, a momentum building feeling. And so the more you do it, the more it builds. And it's obviously related to self-esteem and sense of self. And so I wonder, actually, as you were talking about the idea of grief and loss of identity, if self-efficacy might be part of the path towards
Mhm.
reconnecting to this version of yourself that's um, becoming.
That's really interesting. I think so, and I think it starts very small because one of
Mhm,
the things I struggle with is acknowledging that I even have needs because I need
mhm.
to take care of everybody else and I don't want anybody else in my house to have any more trauma because I can't do stuff. So I put way too much pressure on myself. But coming back to my wife Kathleen, one of the first things that I started working on was, and this is very personal, but I will delay going to pee until I have earned it. And that's also an
Mm,
ADHD thing, I think. And I
uh-huh.
have to hydrate like wild because I have some issues around postural orthostatic stuff and heart rate and tachycardia. So I drink a lot of water,
Mhm.
but I would wait until I was about to burst because I have to take care of stuff. So a very small way I've started integrating that is if I need to go tinkle and I sense it, I do my best to go pee when I gotta pee.
Love it.
I'm 49 years old. I
Mhm,
can go to the bathroom all by myself anytime I
uh-huh.
want. But I feel like we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to reinvent some wonderful version of ourselves. And there's a lot of grifters out there who are like, you're still sick because your nervous system isn't, and you're not
Oh, yeah,
prioritizing
I
this and all of
cannot.
that. And
Yeah, no, thank
it's
you.
it's horrible. But acknowledging that I have a biological need and tending to that has oddly been revolutionary for me.
That doesn't surprise me at all, like, frankly, because in my work, so I'm not trying to I know that you know this, but for your listeners, I am not trying to liken certain experiences to your experiences. It's the themes that I'm
Yeah,
looking at, right?
yeah,
And I just want to be clear about that because I'm quite familiar through lots of stories of friends of the very, very real and difficult challenges. But so I work with speakers and I work with small business owners, pretty much anybody who is working to feel confident when they
yeah.
are kind of in visible situations. And so one of the things that we work on, because neurologically it's very similar
Mhm.
when so it starts with the concept of you find what you're looking for, right? So I don't know if you know this about me, but I find four-leaf clovers constantly in the summer.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So I have a tattoo of a four-leaf clover
Oh, yeah.
on my forearm,
Cute.
and I find like anywhere from 50 to 60 every year.
Wow.
And people say like, how? And I'm like, I look for them.
Yeah.
Most people aren't spending 10 or 15 minutes every morning when they're feeding the birds also searching for four-leaf clovers as a
Yeah.
kind of meditation, right? So
Right.
it follows that I would find them. And I also think that my eyes have developed like pattern recognition of the difference
Mhm.
between 3 and 4. Anyways, so I celebrate internally every time I find one because I know that not only am I finding one and that's cool, but it's also that I have put that time aside for myself to do something, put my feet in the grass, like
Yeah.
spend some time not thinking about anything else other than finding a four-leaf clover. So that is what I call like celebrating a win. And as a result, the more I look for them, the more I find them. So I'm looking for them, and then so I find them and then I find more. So when we're talking about celebrating these wins or these, like celebrating this revolution for yourself that you are going to pee when you need to pee, like I that is are we allowed to swear?
Fuck yeah.
Oh, okay. That's the fucking shit. That is
Yeah.
it. And so whenever somebody's like, you can I've worked with federal politicians and diplomats and people with millions of followers, like influencers with millions of followers. And I've worked with people who literally just want to be able to read out the results at the quarterly meeting at work, right?
Yeah.
It is all the same. Whatever activates your nervous system activates your nervous system. And so if one of your goals is to not let in accounting trip you up when you're giving your report, and if you are a federal politician, one of your goals is to, I don't know, like whatever it is.
Do anything. Sorry. Sorry.
That's okay.
I might have to
I
cut.
live in Canada where things are a little bit different, but
I
yes.
I work for the federal government, so I'll probably have to cut that part out.
Yes. Well, my God, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Anyways, so whatever those small little wins are, the
Mm.
more you celebrate them, the more you're actually building your self-efficacy, which is what I was talking about before. So
Yeah.
you peeing when you need to pee is
Mhm.
actually building your self-efficacy. And me showing up and doing these workouts that I fucking hate to do every single day is me showing up for myself and just being like, and the more I do it, the
Yeah.
easier it is for me to be like, no, I'm actually going to feel really disappointed if I don't do it. Or
Mm.
alternately, as it was with Sunday, it's like, I'm going to rest today. I'm just going
Yeah.
to hang out with the family and not worry about, because then you have to do the workout. Then you have to like log it, then have the shower and then the hair and the whole shebang.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if whatever your goal is, when you reach it, you have that moment with yourself where you're like, I did it.
Yeah.
I wanted to do it. I promised myself I would, and then I did it. And then you have to acknowledge it
Mm.
so that your brain recognizes that you've done something positive for yourself. And then
Yeah.
it checks it off on the box. And then it starts redirecting more to looking at the
Yeah.
wins that you've done instead of the things you aren't doing or can't do, or, whatever the case.
Yeah, you're rewiring all your little neurons
Yes.
and firing off new things. I also like the idea of having like plan Bs around those goals that are still
Yes.
kind to yourself. Like
Mm-hmm.
if I wake up and I know I can't do the thing that I was hoping to do today, that plan B might be acknowledging that I need rest and actually resting, which
Yep.
is again really fucking hard.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's the
But
win that day. Yeah.
yeah, and that's okay. Instead of punishing myself and thinking that needing the rest is somehow a punishment or I'm weak or something like that. I
Yeah.
can do much more if I allow my body what it needs. And maybe that's the promise, that I pay attention to what it needs and go with it,
Right. Yep.
because I
Yeah.
don't have control. I can't necessarily dictate a schedule for it. See, you already made me better. You're making me think about this in a
Done.
yeah, good job.
Thanks.
But that's so clear and simple and kind.
Yeah. Well, I don't really think that being shitty to yourself has actually ever
But I'm
helped you.
really good at it.
Yeah.
I'm
Well, I think
really,
most of
I
us
know.
are.
Yeah. Yeah, it
But
sucks.
once you get out of it, like once you are better to yourself over a longer period of time,
Mhm.
you actually really notice when you're
Yeah.
being unkind to yourself
Yeah.
more. Like it hurts more because you're like,
Oh,
I don't want to do this. Because you feel worse.
yeah.
You're like, why do I feel so crappy? It's like, oh, yeah, I was really hard on myself about this, or I don't know, I let myself get too worked up about, I don't know, some of the myriad of things that are going on.
Yeah. There's so much. It's really interesting what you're talking about too, though. I'm finding that a lot of people with disabilities and people with chronic illnesses are starting their own businesses
Mm-hmm.
because trying to keep up with a corporate pace and not make yourself more sick
Mm-hmm.
and trying to hold on to any wins that you've had, it's not compatible. And that's a doozy in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a risk and so vulnerable. I have a lot of respect for people who do that. I just
Yeah. I mean, think I think running a business is an act of rebellion. I'm very into it. The only thing about it that can be really tricky for people with chronic illness, because a lot of my clients have chronic illness of varying types, is that there still are expectations around timelines and deliverables and
Mm,
stuff like that. And so you have to be really boundaried with yourself and your understanding of your energy so that when you work with people, they understand, I'm hoping to get this to you by February 28th,
mhm.
but it's possible it might be late. And then, if because you're still working within the other systems, right? There's
Yeah.
so many different systems. But ultimately, once you can find your groove and how your energy works best and what's motivating for you, 'cause that's really
Mhm.
important because
Yeah.
it's not always it's like not fun work a lot of the time. It is a really powerful fuck you to that very stupid world of corporate that is just so um
Ugh.
well, you're in it.
Yeah. Performative and
And
just
like it's just meaningless. Like if you're I think part of the reason I don't mind expending the energy that I have to sometimes is because I actually do feel like I'm making a difference. Like
mhm.
I know that there's folks out there that that have better lives now that because they had the opportunity to work through things and to work
Yeah.
on things. And I'm not claiming responsibility for that. Like as a partner to this person's
Yeah.
growth, like that is so meaningful
Yeah.
as opposed to really making photocopies in
Yeah.
a good, like very
Yeah.
well. Or what else did I used to? Well, I mean, I used to organize conferences and stuff and put on parties, like, and I was really good at it.
That's
But
exhausting though, because so many people don't talk to each other and you're balancing emotions and expectations and on top
and it
of
was
just just
in
the
academia,
logistics.
so yeah.
Oh,
Oh
bless.
yeah,
Same. I've done that. So it took
yeah,
you like 3 times it would have taken to do anywhere else and
and
the amount of time just this
egos
yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Can I
This
ask
was
you a
way better.
yeah. Yeah. Can I ask a tarot question? Not
Yeah.
specifically to tarot, but I have an interesting, I think, when people come to you
Hmm.
for a reading and say there's been a major life disruption, I'm curious about when we come ask questions and we want answers,
Hmm.
how many times do you find that the question we bring is not the actual question we have within us? Do you get what I'm
Hmm.
getting at?
Yeah. I mean, so there's so many different ways of reading tarot.
Hmm.
And the way that I structure my offers is usually within an existing framework. So the questions already exist. I don't like to do predictive readings. I don't think they're helpful. And I also think that there's just too many variables
Yeah.
that now some people are psychic mediums and they channel that through tarot. I would say that I definitely get downloads or like a very strong inclination to say something.
Mm.
But, I don't love the readings where people are like, should I have another baby?
Yeah.
Is this guy right for me? So instead, what I try to do is because tarot for me, anyways, so many people read it in so many different ways. For me, it is helping you connect to the truth of the matter for yourself.
Yeah.
And you ultimately have to make the decision. And it's very similar to coaching.
Mm.
So, I will be very clear with people if I'm wearing my coach hat or my strategy hat. Because if it's my coach hat, then I ask you questions so that
Yeah.
you figure out the way. And if it's my strategy hat, then I give suggestions and then you try to figure it out. But anyways,
Yeah.
going back to tarot. So, yeah, like sometimes there are a couple of times where it'll be a question and I will say, just so you know, tarot is kind of an asshole and is not going to say, yes, do this or not do this.
Mhm.
Not the way I read it. Instead, it's going to help you understand more clearly what answer you would like.
Yeah. How you feel about
Yeah. And
these
so,
different
because like if you're at
perspectives.
a standstill and you're not sure what to do, if I pull a card and I say, this or this or this, and you have a reaction to that, that reaction is information for you that sometimes you can't get to
Yeah.
just by thinking about it. Because our brain likes to put up a billion blocks for all kinds of reasons. This mostly related to nervous system response and trying to keep you safe and
Yeah.
alive, right? Like
Right.
that's basically your brain's job is
Yep.
just to keep you alive with all the different nutrients it sends where and whatever. So yes, that answers your question in a sideways way, which is very much as tarot likes to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely. Completely. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your podcast? Because I think what you talk about there would help us a little bit too with the idea of ritual
Mhm.
and seeking. It's really hard. I spend a lot of time on what I call the hamster wheel of maintenance. And when you're exhausted, you don't look for windows to look for the four-leaf clovers necessarily. So I'd just like everybody to know a little bit more about your podcast and then your thoughts on ritual and looking for things that align with yourself, um, to just bring a little bit more, I don't know, magic into your life, a little bit more for you.
Yeah. Well, I am a big believer in the power of your own connection to spirituality and how it manifests for you,
Mm,
right? The things that you feel curious about, the things that you're drawn to, whether it's tarot, whether it's astrology, there's so many different things. Um, and I started the podcast for a number of reasons. Uh, 2024 was a very eye-opening and difficult year for me for a lot of different reasons. And I realized that I had been kind of hiding behind the business and staying safe by ignoring the part of me that actually really wanted to be more front and center and not
mm,
just supporting other people, wanted to be out on the stages. I mean, I'm a classically trained actor from the
yeah.
Toronto Metropolitan University. That's what
Yeah.
that's where I thought I was going to end up. Um, and I'm also a musician, so I play shows so there is definitely part of me that wants to be front and center. And I had not been nurturing that part. So part of the podcast was how can and I wanted to meet some of the incredibly cool people that I had been
Yeah.
learning from and interested in for a number of years. So I pitched it to the Women in Media Network and Sarah, who owns the network, which just won an award, by the way.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, congratulations, Sarah, because she's a very hard worker. She loved it. And so we worked together to get it up and running. Basically, I mean, it's kind of a simple premise. It's like we look at different modalities of spirituality through the lens of staying hopeful when things are incredibly difficult, because
Mm,
I believe that hopefulness, which is basically just the belief that things can change,
mm,
is what keeps us motivated to keep trying,
yeah.
right? Like if we all thought that the environment was tanked and that nothing was ever going to save it and in 20 years we're going to be toast, nobody would be trying. Like we
Yeah.
would all just give up and that would be
Yeah.
it. So I believe in the power of hopefulness. And so using spirituality to help fuel that idea of hopefulness, to keep your spirits up, even when,
Mm,
it's not that we're ignoring the difficulty or the pain or the
no.
chaos or whatever. It's just that we are also choosing to still keep
Mhm.
part of our outlook towards change and the possibility
Yeah.
and curiosity. Then I started thinking about all of the people who I wanted to connect with, and almost straight out of the gate, the kind of big names that I got in touch with all said yes. And
Amazing.
then, I mean, we opened with Colin Bedell. It's
No
bananas.
way.
It's
Wow.
Yeah, he was the first. He was so it had a real it had some I had some it must have had some divine help to like get cracking. And then what has been really fun is I certainly did interviews with a lot of ostensibly magic people, right?
Mm.
Pam Grossman Collin, Cult Mother,
Oh
Ilona
my god.
Pamplona. Yeah.
Such a crush on Cult Mother.
Uh, who doesn't? She is universally fabulous. But then I started getting curious about just like regular life stuff that's magical. So that's why I invited Patrick on. I mean, I know Patrick from a long time ago, and I know that he is a spiritual person. So that kind of lined up.
Yeah.
Patrick from My Morning Jacket, and then I had the two women from Medium Lady Reads to talk about the magic of books.
Well,
And so then it kind of broadened from only looking at people who very specifically call themselves magical in some practice or another to like regular people who would never say, yes, I'm magical, or,
well,
I'm really interested in this, but we're finding the bits and bobs of magic within that practice. The idea of ritual is, for me, it's like very similar to self-efficacy, which is the more you practice something,
yeah.
the more deeply you connect with it, the more rich of an experience you can have over time. And also, you're training your brain
Mm.
through repetition that you're doing something positive for yourself, usually.
Yeah.
And also, you're having kind of an atypical experience than just, I don't know, washing the dishes or
Yeah.
turning on your computer and working. Actually, another guest on the show, she's been on twice, Molly Donlin, she wrote
Mm.
a whole book about that. Um,
Yes.
and actually today's pub day. So congratulations, Molly.
It's called Mundane Magic.
It's called Mundane Magic, and it is rituals using principles of magic. She wrote it because she has ADHD and a lot
Mm.
of her people have ADHD, but it's the idea that you're bringing something fun or different into something that's usually difficult or like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I don't want to
Yeah.
have to do this again.
Yeah.
She calls it novelty. And, for me, I often think of like magic as kind of sexy. It's like adding some like extra, you just feel differently about it
Mm.
than just like, oh, I'm going to sit and write a speech. It's like, well, let's add
Yeah.
some magic into it. And people are like,
Yeah.
oh, what do you mean?
Rawr.
You just get, yeah, exactly. You get like creative. You feel like kind of excited about it. It adds a
Mm.
different level, especially if something is feeling incredibly mundane
Mhm.
or like not fun. And that's how I know I need to switch my rituals up, is when they start to feel like a chore. So I have a daily
Yeah.
practice of tarot and journaling and calling in my circle, which is calling in directions and spirit guides and all the rest of it. And like some days I'm like, oh my God, I don't feel like sitting. I think this is not the point. So
Yeah.
let's just regroup. It doesn't have to be the same. What might feel interesting and exciting right now? And then
Yeah.
try to go towards that.
I don't think we give ourselves enough credit either because just surviving this timeline is pretty magical to actually, be upright. And
Mhm.
I think it's important for the chronic illness community to understand that there's an element of magic to us because we're withstanding this. Like
Mhm.
we are still here. And to me, that's magical because there's a lot of reasons that I might not have been.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things that is one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you and start this conversation is because I don't think about that. And that could be a very simple ritual for me is to just, when I wake up in the morning, take some breaths and think, hey, I'm here. Like, just I'm here is
Mhm.
magical to me because it's very plausible that I might not have been. I spend so much time working hard to be here that I'm not enjoying being here because I'm not
Mm.
giving myself that space. And that makes me sad. And then I get resentful and I get in the loop of that energy instead of taking a moment and going, things are really hard, but I'm here to try to help with them, or I'm here to do this thing, or look at that tree. I'm here to see it. And it feels like I have a part that's like, that's so basic That's so base expectation, but sometimes you really do have to just start, like,
Yeah, it is so basic, and that is where joy lives.
yeah, you're right. You're right.
Like, finding those like I said, out there finding the four-leaf clovers. Like, I'm also, like, hugging my lilac tree, and I am enjoying watching the squirrels, and, I mean, I have a house full of electronics and every book you could possibly imagine, and, but I'm choosing because I find regular life magical.
Mhm.
Not every day, and I
Oh
get
god.
pissed off and, like, things really fucking like, this is me this morning is, like, I've been angry for a really long time about a bunch of stuff, and I'm feeling resentful, so I need to make a change because I do not wanna feel this way anymore. So what is this information telling me? So
Mm.
again, not equating that to
No.
experiences of living with
Yeah.
long COVID, which are incredibly different and difficult, but just, like, stopping to look at that tree,
Yeah.
that is magical.
Yeah.
And that is, you get to have that. And it doesn't matter what else is going on. You get to have that moment where you're like, wow, look at the sunshine at this
Yeah.
particular moment. Like, this is, and it does, I think it really does something to us,
Yeah.
something positive.
Yeah. Just finding that it's amazing how you get so caught up in the
Yes.
the rush and none of that's serving me or making me feel better.
No, but also, guess what? You've been dealt a very unfair blow that fucking sucks. And like, it means that if we all start off with, and we don't, but like, if we all start off with 100% of our energy of the day, like you've already probably used up
Yeah.
40 or 50 or 60% of yours by 9 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
I
probably only came
haven't.
with 20. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Right. I think just taking these little steps and taking these moments and the self-efficacy part, I'm going to do a lot more reading about that because that's so interesting to me.
Mhm.
But it does help you rebuild a little bit of that trust with yourself. Um, because I'm now thinking about it not being about becoming trying to get back to who I was because I really didn't feel great then either and stuff was still messed up, but there's a tendency to
Mm.
romanticize 2019 me compared to now and 2019 timeline compared to now. It was still fucked.
Yeah.
But it's trying to learn how to live gently with who I am now within the realm of everything that I've been through and how I want that to continue and what I want to invite and have be part of that because I am here. And I really don't think I've thought about that. And part of that is not knowing who I am anymore if it's not just sick Beth. But I think these little steps will help me see me as a person. I told a friend I'm a terrible people pleaser and I do all this stuff in self abandonment. And she was like, but you're people. And I was like, God damn it. You're people. You deserve to be pleased too. And I was like, I think about that.
Yeah. 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 We don't.
Yeah, we don't.
But I mean, there's something I talk about, Kathleen would know about this because we've definitely talked about it a ton, is this idea of acclimation. And so when things in your life change, you kind of have to have a period of acclimating to whatever the new normal is.
Yeah.
And it will change. Like
Hmm.
2026 numerologically is the year, the major arcana card is the Wheel of Fortune, which just
Hmm.
means that things are constantly changing. And guess what? They always have been.
Yeah.
Seasons, moon, life, everything is constantly changing. It's just at different paces. And sometimes it happens more quickly than and throws us off guard. But there's usually, usually we have this period where we acclimate into whatever this next level, phase, uh, whatever you want to call it is. And that just means that we exist within the framework for a little while and
Mm.
then become that version of ourselves in
Yeah.
that particular timeline. And so you, I think folks with chronic illness, I also have chronic illness, definitely not to the same extent, but there's like this acclamation of, it's like when you finally acknowledge
Yeah.
and you go, okay,
Okay.
this is
Yeah.
me. This
Yeah.
is me now. This
Yeah.
is this is how it is. And it's only then when you can start looking at like, what's my pocket of joy this morning? What tree am I
Mm.
going to spend a little bit of time looking at? I get to have joy too. I am going to pee when I feel like I fucking need to pee. I'm going to have 3 drinks at my desk if I feel like it. Cause like, guess what? I get to just
Yeah.
not even, it doesn't have to be a reason. I just want to. Um, but I think that, when we're in transition, it's really hard to find
Yeah.
those moments because you're not acclimated yet. You're still shifting and changing and transmogrifying. And then you get there. And so now, I don't know if this is the case for you, but now maybe you get to spend that time being like, okay,
Yeah.
this is how things are. What brings me joy? And how can I bring more of it into my life? And how can I build self-efficacy for myself to keep that promise
Mhm.
to myself so that I am going to find those little moments of joy and like put them in my calendar or whatever it
Yeah.
is.
Thank you for saying that. I think there's a real tendency to put pressure on yourself to already be super
Mm.
self-sufficient, and I've got this thing. And the grief and that actual acclimation to your new situation, our nervous system, we do so much I should be here, I should be that. There's no sense of time with your nervous system.
No.
However, I am very aware of the time now because we've been talking for an hour. Can I ask you one more question?
Yes.
All right. I ask everybody the same 3 questions at the end, but I'm just going to ask you one of them because it's my favorite and I'm going to change
Okay.
it slightly. If your experience in the world of tarot and working with clients had a theme song, what would it be?
Um.
I know it's a doozy. It's a good one though, right?
Touch Me, I'm Gonna Scream Part 2.
Love it. I love it. We have a running playlist. So many of us lost the ability to listen to music, and
Mhm.
some people are still just getting it back. Yeah, that's a great one. I will add it to the playlist. I appreciate you taking the time today so much. It was so nice to meet you.
Oh, it's so
Genuinely
nice to meet you
thrilled.
too. Yeah.
And I really appreciate you, and the work you're doing is so important, and you are helping so many people.
Oh, it's my pleasure. This was really fun.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in to A Friend for the Long Haul. I want to remind listeners that while our conversations may touch on medical topics, I'm not a medical professional and neither are most of our guests. The content provided here is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Any advice or information shared should not be considered a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider regarding any medical concerns or conditions. Additionally, I'm committed to transparency in advertising. Any advertisements or sponsored content featured in these episodes will be clearly disclosed as such. Lastly, I acknowledge that the recording of this podcast takes place on the traditional lands of the Arapaho, the Cheyenne, the Sioux, and the Ute peoples. Again, thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more episodes of A Friend for the Long Haul.